Hey guys, want to bring you another YouTube video about yesterday's Niners and Seahawks. My thoughts. Can they make the playoffs? And obviously, I'm a Niners fan, but that was very frustrating to watch. That's probably why I didn't want to do an instant reaction because that was very painful. Um, and wanted to gather my thought more on this because reality is going to have to set in, and it is what it is at this point. So the Niners don't really have a home record that you could write about. 3-3 at home. Seahawks 3-1. Seems like they play better away at this point. Geno Smith was 0-5 against the Niners and finally got his win. Congratulations in that sense. Um, you can see Brock Purdy, 159 yards. That's nothing to write about. Actually, let's also look the game earlier in the year because that will show you how bad that was too. Uh, Kind of like a comparison, I would say. Let's go ahead and compare the two games because it was a lot higher scoring in Seattle, and let's kind of see what's the difference. All right. So Brock Purdy and Geno Smith, you can see the last game. It'll be easier. Both Obviously, you can see a higher scoring game. Both defenses didn't show up. This game, defenses show up on both sides for the most part. But for Geno Smith, once Bosa got out of the game, he was, I would say, the most important because obviously Geno Smith was able to cook. He scored two touchdowns in that time frame, I believe. Was it? I want to say it was because they scored. Yeah, Yeah, you can see right here, Seattle. Uh, Bosa was out in the third quarter, I remember, and then that's where Geno scored those two touchdowns in that time frame. Was able to cook us. Kenneth Walker couldn't do much, and Christian McCaffrey 79 yards. So those were the two leading rushers. So remember Walker 54 and McCaffrey 79. Again, let's go back here. Huh. Isaac Guerrero and Jordan Mason pretty much did as much or better than Christian McCaffrey. So that's another thing. And then Kenneth Walker did worse in that last game. So he did better this time around a little bit for the average per carry. But gosh, look at that. That is big difference. Christian McCaffrey does not look like the same player lately, I would say. Um, And right here, look at that stat right here. Jordan Mason, 2 for 13, average 6.5. I know it's lower than what he had last time, but still, that's way better than Christian McCaffrey. You gotta give Jordan Mason, I think, some running. I mean, I would say that's one of the things very frustrating. You're not using your running backs. Christian McCaffrey doesn't look the same. You should be easing him in. All right, let's look at wide receivers. Lean Jason Smith, 110 yards, and then Jawan Jennings, 91 yards. All right, so, huh, receiving. Excuse me. All right, that was Tyler Lockett. So obviously there was more balance. Obviously, you don't have that dominant wide receiver like this game with Jason with 110 yards. Look here. Debo Samuel was more effective, 102 yards receiving. Juwan Jennings was 3 for 27. But why did Debo not be more effective? Because I don't know if he's losing a step. That's the other thing. It helped with Christian McCaffrey for the dump offs because we didn't have that last time. I mean, you don't have Jar Mason, Kyle Juszczyk, Patrick Taylor Jr. I mean, Those weren't very effective. But you even had Brian Ayuk and George Kittle. Yeah, they're missing out of this game, and you had to depend on other guys. But there's enough to cook. Ricky Pearsall didn't get to do anything in this game. That jet sweep does nothing at this point with Debo. That's another thing. This offense is not very effective. That's the scary part. Um, Turnovers. I mean, that right here, pretty much even. I would say, but I would say the biggest thing was that Bosa was out for the biggest plays at the time. Things were harder for Brock Purdy. Obviously, that tip pass, but let's see if they can make who's going to make the playoffs because of that loss from the Niners. They could have tied for first with the Arizona Cardinals, but now they're last in the NFC West. I would say let's play a game. I mean, everybody's 5-5 except the Cardinals. Let's see who can make the playoffs. Who could have the best record, and that's where I'm going to play. So Seahawks, what could they finish? All right, they got after this the Cardinals at home. That's a very big game. I don't know if that's going to be let down. That's because of how hard they played against the Niners. I mean, at this point to help close up the gap. I would love to see Seattle win. So I might be going for my heart, but I wouldn't be surprised if Arizona wins. So let's give Seattle because they're at home. All right. At the Jets, going cross country, that's very hard. Maybe again, I'm going to help the Niners. Let's give them a loss there. Then they could lose to Arizona at home. I could see that. Uh, they're not at Green Bay, so that helps. But I think Green Bay is a better team. Minnesota, I feel like a better team. The Bears, they're hard to say, but I'm going to give them where they should be able to beat Chicago. And whew, with the Rams, that's going to be a tough game. That could be a flex game, like they said right here. And that could help decide the division or not. But because I'm going to say they could split because that was a pretty even game last time. Um, let's give Seahawks a win. So that takes them to 8 wins. All right, so I'll have to remember that. All right, next time the Rams. Remember, they're 5-5 right here. All right, next game. They fly back. They play Philly, so I think that's a loss. All right. Then they gotta fly to New Orleans. New Orleans been playing better, so that could go either way. Maybe because again, I'm hoping the Saints could help the Niners, so I'm going to say they could get a loss. Again, I wouldn't be surprised either way. The Bills, that's going to be at Los Angeles. That could be a close game, to be honest, because Buffalo has to fly across country. That's a hard one with the time zone. But I still think Buffalo is a better team. All right. I think the Niners definitely, usually these divisions, they split. So I'm going to give benefit of doubt. The Niners going to win. So the Rams actually have a tough schedule. Then they got to fly to New York. Again, I'm hoping maybe that could help. So they did beat New England by 6. So I'm going to say another loss as a hope, maybe. Um, and then Arizona, yeah, that's another flex game. That's gonna be at home. I'll give them a win there. And then because I said Seattle could win, I got them at 6 wins in. That's I don't know. That's gonna be hard for the Rams. All right, Cardinals. They might not take much because are already at 6 wins. All right, they're going to be at Seattle, and again, I'm hoping that they win. That's what I already said. Then they gotta go Minnesota. I think Minnesota is the better team. This is where I said they'll split. So Cardinals, they'll get a win at home. Then, oh, lucky them. They got New England at home. Then they got Carolina at home. Oh, no, they got to go Carolina, but Carolina is the worst team. But they have Bryce Young that's playing a little bit better. So I'm still thinking Cardinals going to beat them. Again, I got to hope that they beat the I'm hoping the Rams beat the Cardinals at this point, like I said. And then the Niners. I got a feeling that could decide the division. Maybe I could be biased. I don't know. Again, it could be a split situation because the Niners did lose at home. Maybe they could revenge that and know what's available, and maybe they could be healthy by then. I'll say they get a loss, so that's 9 wins for Cardinals. All right, the Niners. All right, Green Bay. I think that's going to be loss. Loss. I think they should be able to beat Chicago at home. Should be able to beat the Rams. Flying cross country against Miami. That's going to be hard. Tua's playing better. That team's playing better. I think that could be a loss. I think the Rams, that's going to be a loss. Or the Lions. And then, like I said, I think they could beat Arizona, but that's going to only be 8 wins. That means I have to be wrong. And again, hope that the Cardinals, that we get some help with the Cardinals losing. And at this point, you got to hope you could either beat Green Bay, Buffalo, Miami, or the Lions. Like I said, there's you got to get one of those at this point because I'm hoping they beat the Cardinals, they beat the Lion or the Rams and the Bears. Those are three you should and hopefully win. But I feel like it's going to be really hard. All these games are going to be freaking hard for them at this point. Like I could see them losing all these games, or they could win it. They just don't know how to close out games at this point. Especially if it rains or it's snow or sleet. Brock Purdy's not very good in those type of situation and weather. So that's where it kind of worries me with Green Bay and Buffalo. At least Detroit, it's indoor, but the way they're playing and dominate, I don't see how we're going to beat Detroit. Miami, it could rain. You don't know. It's Florida, especially in December. So actually, I could take it back. We could lose to Chicago, but no, actually, it's not in Chicago, so that's okay. So weather should be good in the Bay Area for that. So other than that, I'm really concerned that we're going to miss out because there's going to be a couple games we're going to look back in this season. We're going to look back at the Rams where we were up, the Cardinals where we were up, and then this last game, Seattle. We should be 11 team win. That's where I believe early in the season I was projecting us around that 11 or 12 wins. I look like a doofus and Homer for that reason at this point. That's why I said I could see us losing, or I was hoping we were going to start that run. Usually that run is after the bye, and that did not happen. So that's what I'm looking. And what's ironic, as I was saying up this video to go over like the different scenarios, look at this. From Jerry Jones to the Sun to Micah to Jerry Dewey. It's one thing after another for the Cowboys. 3-6. That could be us. I mean, we're like the Cowboys 2.0 for that reason because we're not closing out. We're lucky we don't have Brock Purdy out because they lost out Dak. But it's been a crazy season. understand all these games add up because you've made so many late runs, but that's why those late um, games you should be able to know, especially the experience that you have. I don't know if they're tuning out their coach, Kyle Shanahan. If we miss the playoffs again, I would say the only way I would want to fire Kyle Shanahan at this point, I think John Lynch is going to be safe. I wouldn't say he should be safe for that reason because I think he's done a decent job. Because you can see the depth at running back, you can see depth at the wide receiver at some spots. There's depth, there's safeties, there's depth all over that I don't know why Kyle Shanahan does not play some of his players that we've got to see that play well while like Christian McCaffrey was out. We got to see Garendo. Garendo looks like he could be the 2.0 Mostert. Um, Jordan Mason, I've been saying that I think he could play. Obviously I was right because he played really well to help the Niners to win some of those games. He reminds me of Marshawn Lynch a little bit. So that's how one way you could keep your players healthy, make that playoff run. But he doesn't do it. That's the frustrating thing. Jawan Jennings, I knew, especially we're not a good separating team. That's why he was really great and central against the Chiefs. We need those type of players if we can't separate. And if Brandon Ayuk and the Debo Samuel plays a couple of times yesterday did not make sense. Like Brock Purdy threw it high, but I think Jawan Jennings could have got that because of his height and his reach radius. So if we look at the playoffs, like I said, there's only one path for the Niners. I think there's only one way is winning your, and that's the easiest always to win your division to get in. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if we're like number 3 or 4. There's no way we're catching up to the number 1 or 2 seed. But I wouldn't be surprised if we're the 3 or 4 seed if we get in. There's no way we're getting in a wild card at this point. Commanders playing well, Packers playing well, the Vikings playing well. Unless those guys, one of them fall off, that's possible, but it's really hard to see at this point. Rams on the tiebreaker, you can see that, and Seattle based on head to head. So you can see the next three, we're bunched up right here. 8, 9, 10. I mean, we're the 10th favorite to get in the standings. I mean, the the Buccaneers, I mean, they were hot, but the problem is injuries hurt them. So this is where it gets very tricky, and we'll see where it goes from here. But that was a heartbreaker. If we don't get in the playoffs, we're gonna look back at those 3 games. That if the Cardinals get in with 9 wins, I think if you could get 10 wins, you're guaranteed in at this point. Whoever's it's a race to 10. I think Rams have the second hardest schedule down the stretch. Cardinals have the easiest. I think the Seahawks getting there. So I think Seahawks and Niners have almost same schedule down the stretch that they could lose because of the travel and everything. But we'll find out. Let me know what you think, especially if you're a Niners fan. Are you frustrated? Do you agree? Maybe Kyle Shanahan may get fired if he missed the playoffs, or does the owner understand there was too many injuries, or it was more of the coaching? I think it's coaching. The defense sucks. The offense sucks. They're not consistent. They're not playing off each other. There's no blitz. It's too bland and it's predictable for offense and defense. They need fixed special teams. I mean, I would really, really love to see Ben Johnson at this point, especially how the Lions are blowing out all these teams. That's what a good team does. You beat up the really bad teams and you win the games you're supposed to win. So that's who I would go after. Um, I don't know who else that might be. I think you're going to want an offensive coordinator and then bring a really good defensive coordinator along and fix that special teams because that's another thing that could cost a game yesterday. Tor Mason almost fumbled, had to punch it out to the sidelines. So go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so, and together we could build a better tomorrow. Thanks.